Hi, and welcome back to our training. Today we're going to look at something a little bit more exciting. We've seen already how to create basic applications. What we're going to look at today is something called Landing Page GPT. So the idea here is that I want to be able to give it something like Women's History Month and click Generate Sections. What it will do is create a set of sections for a landing page. And then when I click on Generate Page, it will start creating that page. We're going to look at how to do that step by step. So I'm going to start off from like a blank page here that has Landing Page GPT, create professional landing pages in minutes, and just an empty space, just so I don't waste your time with basic Tailwind, CSS, and Next.js. The next thing I want to do is create a description area. I have here three main sections, I would say: description area, generated sections, which will show the sections generated, and generated HTML page. So if I were to go back here, and once it's done, it's going to show me here a set of sections. That's the generated sections. Description area is that one at the top here. And then the generated HTML is going to come up here on the right side. We have to note one thing, that as you can see, this is slow. And the reason for it being slow is because it's taking everything and doing it all at once rather than using OpenAI Stream. So we're going to first learn how to do it without OpenAI Stream, and then we're going to convert this same app to use OpenAI Stream. Here I made the sections actually change, so you can drag and drop different sections around. So let's say I wanted statistics to be here at the top. You can add new sections. We're not going to go through this because this is just pure Next.js development, but the whole app is open source for you to check out as well. So let's get started. So I'm going to start off by creating my description area here. So what we need to do is just create a new component. So let me go under here and add under my source a components folder. It's completely empty because I wanted to do this completely from scratch, just to show you how easy it is once you get the hang of what you need to do. So description area is now my new page. And what I need to do is I need to create that page, right? So I'm going to create function description area. Okay, and then I need to give it my props. And we're going to talk about this here. Let me go back to it. I have a props called generated sections because I wanted the handle generated sections to be a function here. You'll see that because I want to ultimately the generated sections, once it's generated there, to be passed to the parent, which is that page index.tsx, so that I can push it back into generated sections component. So here we have handle generated sections as a function, which takes generated items and sets them in the generated sections here. So I need the props to cater for this one. So let me just get out now that I have it created. Okay, and I have my description area here. I just need to continue by adding its props. So its props, I'll just, again, for simplicity, I'll just keep it as a description area props that is absolutely completely empty. Let me add some of my React references here. And let's continue on here by saying that this is going to be a description area props. And then finally, I'm going to actually have to open my function and close it, and then I'll do my return. You'll see here that it completely came up with, this is Copilot coming up with ideas around what it may have, again, based on what usually I have in such areas. However, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. So let me just start off by doing my, my return function. So let's just return here, and let's close the return. Okay. So now I have an empty container. I'll just create its div and all the stuff in it, and I need to export it, of course. So I'll export it here. So now description area has been exported, and I'll actually write my code. So again, just copying and pasting my code here. You'll see what I've done is I just created a flex call because I wanted them underneath each other, and I created a div underneath that with another flex call of gap2 to show the description label and the text area. And you'll see here I have a ref for message ref because I'm going to use that reference. So let's just add that reference. So it's just going to be a use ref. So let's go up here and just do a use ref. Okay, and then handle generate section. Again, when the user clicks on generate section to handle that generate section. So I need that function as well. For now, I'm just going to use a callback function that is empty until we actually go in and create that function. So let me just create it. Okay, so we now have our handle generate function, and I do want to pass in the handle section loading just because I want to do a loader as I usually like to do. So let's add that loader here. And loading text is my loading spinner. So let me just add them here to my components. Again, I've open sourced them, so you're more than welcome to use them. And let me just add the import to it. Okay, and then I have an error here. So again, an error message, if it does occur, I want to be able to take it in and handle that or show it to the user for now. So let's just use a state variable here called error or answer error. And it's text read 500. So now I have my main building blocks for that handle generate section. So if we were to go back here and check, refresh the page, is saying description area is not defined. So let me go back to index and make sure why that is. I might have forgotten to add the import. So let's go back. And you'll see here it's saying that CLSX is not defined. That's because I forgot to import it. So let's do npm install to CLX. And then let's run again. And hopefully now we won't have any more errors and we'll see the main structure of our page starting to become real. Perfect. I have my description here with generate sections. Now generate sections right now is an empty function. It won't do anything, right? It's completely empty. Here in description area, I have generate sections, which is a callback function that does absolutely nothing. So I need to start doing what this function should do. So the first thing I need to do is just return if generate section is loading, because I don't want it to be clicked when there is a generate section. And then I'll do a set generate section loading is true. And at the end, I'll set that as false, just again, so I don't forget. And then what I need next is to take the message ref, because that's the message I referenced. So I'm going to use message_ref.current. If it has a value, then put that value in message and do a null check, of course, for message. So if not message, set error, please enter a campaign and set generated section loading to false and return from here. If not, then let's create a try block here, a try catch block. So I'm going to go into my try here, and the first thing I need to do is get my data. So I'm going to do a const data message, and I'm going to assume that we have an API called generate sections. I don't have it yet, but I'm going to request that this is what I need here. So I'm going to just do an Axios post here. So Axios post to generate sections. And then when there is a response, take that response as JSON and parse it as a JSON array. Right now I have it dragging and is dragging over just because, again, I was handling that. But for our simple case scenario, we don't need that. We just need props.generate sections to pass it back to the parent and set section loading to false, as you can see here. And let me just handle my error here. So if I catch an error, I just set generate section loading to false. And since I've handled it in each section, I don't need it here at the bottom. I just need to npm install Axios again, because I have not done that yet. Npm install Axios. And I need to include it, of course. Add import to Axios. And there you have it. We now have a semi-working in scenario, because the only thing that's remaining is that generate content sections. So if I were to run this right now, it will throw an error. So let's say generate women's history month, for instance, and click generate sections. It won't do anything because it doesn't know what generate sections is just yet. Okay. you'll see here that it threw in the exception, and that's why it did that. And you'll see here in the console error that 404 because it's not found. So let's go back here and create our API. So going back in here, we want to create an API called generate content sections. So let's do that here. So let's new file, generate content sections. And what this should have is, well, first I need to check if I have an environment variable for my data API key, because again, we want to make sure that we do have it. And then I'll just export config edge. We don't need it right now since we're already not using edge functions, but this will help us when we actually start using an edge function for it. And let me just add my handler. So my handler here is an async request with a promise, and then I take the request.json. That's the request JSON that came from here. So you see generate section content sections is taking the response data, which you may remember is the message that's being passed or what the user wrote. And what I'm telling it is take that message and then call OpenAI chat completions with that message. And we're telling it what it should do with it. So you'll see here that I have my post, like I did last time, content type application JSON, authorization bearer, and process.env.data API key. And finally here I have my messages. This time I'm using a role system first. This defines what the system should know about itself. So I'm saying here, upon receiving a request, you need to explain what content sections the user should use for a web landing page. Respond with the JSON array with section, description, and content and component type. So I'm telling it exactly what I want to see. And then the user sends a message and is able to get that message JSON. And then I just get that output text and stringify and do a response as JSON.stringify for that. Now let's try that first as a normal prompt. So let me go into ChatGPT and write a prompt with that info. So let me just go in here and I'll create a new GPT-4 here, and I'll say the same thing here, and then say Women's History Month. You'll see here it's starting to create a JSON object, and this is exactly what we will be displaying, is that JSON object is creating here. Again, for now, I'm just going to use it as a non-streaming. It's going to take a long time to show us a result, but we're going to look at how to enhance the performance in our next session, or the one after that. So let me start off by actually running this. Again, Women's History Month, and I'll say generate sections. What it's doing now is it's going to OpenAI and requesting that and responding back, but it won't show anything when it responds back because I have not told it to respond or where to respond to be accurate. So let me just go back here, and as I do that, instead of doing all these different things, I have my generated sections, which was handled by this generated items. So what I can do here is just add that here. So let me just add it. And you may remember that generated sections is a JSON array, so it should show up as a JSON array once done. And since okay, so let's try again. Women's History Month, generate sections. And again, we'll wait for it until it generates these sections for us. And you'll see here it's saying an error because objects are not valid as a React child. So I do need to actually do a map for this because it's an item array. So let me actually let Copilot help me here. So generating section dot map item, and for each item, return div key item ID, title, description, close the div, close the return, and close my map function. Okay, and let's put that in. Here, and we know that item does not really have an ID or a name, so let's just go to our item type here in types.item, and it has section, description, component type. So let's use, for example, section as the title, as the key, sorry, and here, and item.description, so that should look good. And then let's do it again. And now you'll see it returned our hero banner, introduction, events and activities, and so on. So it's showing us all the different sections, which looks very similar to what we have here. I just made it look nicer here. And that's really the first step. The next step is to actually create a button here to generate the page itself from all these items. And we're going to see how to do that in our next video. So stay tuned.